I had the opportunity a few years ago to meet Debra. Debra Thompson works for Water Resources Control Board. She was a guest speaker at our DHCS National Disability Employee ND Month. So, Debra, welcome. Are you with us? You may have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you for being with us. If you don't mind, please tell the group your disability.
I am blind, and I have been blind since birth.
Okay.
As a child, I could see a small amount, but nothing significant. So at least I know my colors pretty much. That's basically all I can really have gained from that, but now I have no vision at all. I've been working for the Department of Water Resources Control Board for 22 years now. It's been a very good ride, and I'm going to retire soon. So that's also going to be exciting. And the challenges that we've had with COVID, the biggest one for those of us who have a visual disability is the isolation. For a lot of people with disabilities, being able to stay home is great. To be able to telecommute is great. And for blind people who have a lot of technology at home, it's not been too bad, but it has depended on what their jobs were and the job duties and their technologies. So a lot of the accommodations have actually been based on what is available on the home front, basically, whether they could telecommute or not. And in my situation, I could not telecommute because I do not have a secure internet connection. So I have been going into work the whole time, except for the times when we've had actual lockdowns for COVID. And it's not been a difficult situation for me. And I'm like, my biggest thing, I think, that's been a problem, or even an easily solved solution, is consistency in people's telework schedules. That's been really the issue, at least where I'm at. There's been a lot of inconsistency about when people are coming in or not, that sort of thing. And that's really caused more difficulties for me as a visually impaired person, knowing who's available for what situations at work. As far as the computer's concerned, there's not been a problem on that.
Okay, so I thought for someone like you or me who doesn't drive, I thought maybe like working from home would be a good advantage, but you're saying that you've had to go in?
I've had to go in, yes, because of my technology. Now I had to do a program last week about this, so I'm kind of up to date on things. I have many blind friends who are employees of the state who have all their technologies at home, and so doing the telecommute has not been a problem for them. It's just depended on their actual duties, basically, and their home already available accommodations.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask, and I still got noise behind me. I was going to ask about the what's the blind advisory group that you were involved with for the Department of Rehab?
The Department of Rehab has a blind advisory group, which actually works just like a DAC does, only it's with the community at large, letting the Department of Rehab know how their policies have affected them, such as, for example, the California Council for the Blind members, and they have a member from that organization that's on the BAC. And then also from the different vendors that provide different services for employees with visual impairments. And it's everybody getting on the same page, knowing what's effective, what's not, working out solutions to problems, or mostly for getting people employed and keeping them employed, basically, is really what they focus on for the most part.
I have a personal question for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I had an acquaintance years ago who was born totally blind, just like yourself. And he had told me once that that's something he would never change about himself because that's the only life that he knows. How do you feel about that?
I would change it for practical purposes, but for the actual being of who you are, no. So practical purposes, I would love to be able to, hop in a car and drive around, or not have to have the special reader services to read documents, or have to do different accommodating processes to learn how to do simple things like cook a specific meal or even cook in general. We had to learn specific skills, where a sighted person, all they had to do is just watch somebody else do it, and they learned to do it that way. Sight makes things much easier. But there are some things about vision that as a blind person, that I don't find at least been interesting, such as you guys receive so much information at one time that you have to be very good at selecting what you choose to notice. And that, for a person who is blind, is a very confusing kind of thing, because we're used to having to notice things one thing at a time. And that's the hard thing about actually dealing with websites as well, because you all know how much information is up on a website. And when you're using a screen reader, you have to go one tab at a time, all the way around the screen, back and forth, and it's tedious. Now, those things I would like sight for, but for general personality reasons, I see no point to that. So it's kind of a mixed bag, basically. It'd be good in some things, and it doesn't really matter in others.
Have you ever had to fight for accommodations since you've been with the state, or has everything been good? My experience has been positive. So I was going to ask you what your experience has been as far as accommodations.
The Water Control Board has been pretty good at providing reasonable accommodations for me. When I needed, for example, when I first started working for the state, I did everything through JAWS, and my memory was to the point that I could do that. I had a little bit of documentation in Braille, but nothing major. And when I turned 50, my memory for numbers went boom. It was like a button turned on. So I had to get a Braille display so that I could read numbers and things, because I do a lot of transferring of telephones to different places. And if people call in and say, hey, can you transfer me to so-and-so? I have to be able to look that number up and be able to read it off and transfer into the phone with that number. And my memory for doing that's gone. So that's kind of an extra accommodation. And they were willing to do that as long as I was able to do my justification. So anything I've been able to justify, they've provided for me. So.
Right. All right. That's good to know. Do we have any questions for Debra? Whether professional or personal, if she's open to it. Do we have any questions for our guest?
I am open. No problem.
Okay.
I do. Debra, this is Susan. And
yes.
I heard you talk about a blind advisory group, and I was kind of wondering how your agency got that group, because it's the first time I've heard of an agency having that.
I heard of it outside of work. I heard of it. Well, actually, somebody at work mentioned it to me, but it's actually most of the members are not state employees. They're general.
Okay.
The only people who are state employees that are on this committee are DOR or DOR. I need to be correct. Employees. They get information from the public at large. Basically, is why they bring in different people. It's kind of like a watchdog on DOR and how they're handling employment of people with visual disabilities.
Which is awesome. And Debra, we have another question from Jay Galvin asked, what sort of reading software do you use at work? If an employee is blind and receives documents that include handwriting, is there a software/reader that works best?
Documents that have handwriting? No. Print documents, there's OCR software if you can get stuff delivered to you electronically, or if somebody gives you a hard copy document, and you can have the OCR software work. I have Open Book, is which one I have at work. Handwriting is still an issue, but they are getting better at treating handwriting as a font, and therefore they are improving on reading handwriting, but it is still a very difficult you need a reader if you want it to be completely accurate.
Okay.
And a human reader, unfortunately.
Hello. This is Augie. I'm with the State Control's office.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Deborah, I'm sorry. I was going to ask if you've heard of tactile braille graphics displays, such as the one that's marketed by American Printing House of the Blind, working together with Braille display manufacturer Orbit, that came out with the 20 and 40 affordable 2040 character displays and keyboard combo.
Right.
But they now have something that is a Braille graphics display that actually shows you what the outline of whatever is displayed on the screen to the fact where they
I've not seen one. I'm glad to hear about that, but I hadn't heard that they'd had a graphic Braille display option at this point. I know that they can do that with a graphic printer, Braille embosser, and they can print out those displays, but I hadn't heard that they actually had a display that's you can actually look at in conjunction with what you're seeing on the screen.
This one is called Graphiti, Graphiti, a play on another word that we all know about.
Okay.
But it's a 2400 dot 40 by 60 array. And I was thinking, yes, and it's been used for all kinds of things. And I was thinking there's a way that, I don't know what agency to talk to about it here within the state. So
talk to the Department of Rehab. They're the best agency to talk to about that, because they have blind employees who could look at it and see if it would be really helpful to employees, as well as
because I'm totally blind. Because I'm totally blind, and it's something that could be very, very useful. It's just that not enough people know about it. All we have is text mode in Braille displays, but there is actually starting to be graphics mode now. Thank you very much.
Interesting. I had not heard of that. Thank you for bringing that up. And that would be something that the Blind Advisory Committee should know about. I'm no longer on that committee, but talk to the Department of Rehabilitation. I can't even say their name. Department of Rehabilitation, and see who in there would be interested in looking at it. Talk to Joe Xavier, or he's the top of the pile, but they have a lot of Braille users as well. At DOR. So I would definitely tell them, and maybe you can get your client, or not your client, to get a display of that in one of the Blind Advisory Committee meetings. That would be a very good thing to have.
All right, great. And any other questions for Debra? Oh, your guide dog is black chocolate lab, right?
Correct. She is a chocolate lab, and her name is Mocha.
Mocha. All right.
And I did not pick her name. The school picked her name.
Oh.
And she's a sweet, good girl.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. Any other questions for Debra, or does Debra have any other input for our group?
I do have one thing that I want to give 2 thumbs up on, is Angie's report about the manufacturing of the websites, starting with accommodation or whatever we want to call it from the beginning. I know DOR has been working on that for years and years, and I'm so excited to see that actually starting to happen.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Debra, this is Bobby, and I'm back on phone here. It was really enlightening. I really appreciated what you said, and you were very candid about your own condition and how you navigated that. So thanks. That's been very informative. We appreciate your participation. Hopefully you'll come back and see us soon.
Well, I'm retiring, so I'll be living in Wyoming.
Oh, really?
I'm going to go live I'm going to go out where my family is. So
it's a lot more.
Well, good for you. Happy retirement then.
Yeah, thank you.